Welcome to the 8th Annual Women Veterans Appreciation Day, where we honor the contributions of women veterans to the nation and to the Commonwealth. Please rise for the presentation of the colors by the 54th Massachusetts Regiment Honor Guard and remain standing for a Pledge of Allegiance and invocation. We now invite Corporal Michaela Brito, Gulf War veteran, U.S. Marine Corps, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Reverend Sandra Whitley, United States Air Force, will now deliver the invocation.
Thank you. May we bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, Almighty God, who is the creator of all mankind, we come today thanking you for all that you have done and the purpose that you have given each and every one of us. So as we come today with all friends and family and all elected officials and our veterans, we thank you for all who have served. And specifically, we want to thank you so much for greater love than this is one that lays down their life for friends. And so the friends of this country, of the United States of America, we thank you for the women veterans, and we thank you for the honoree that we have today. We ask, oh God, that you would be the one to continue to bless us, to give us strength. And thank you for the courage. Thank you for all that have served to help save the lives. We thank you for the peace that you have brought through the freedom in America. And we ask that you would continue to bless each and every one of us as we serve in our prospective services, as you, Lord God, continue to lead, guide, and direct us. We thank you for your purpose and protection. Now we ask that you would bless every event and every person that is here today, that it may bring glory to you as we continue to serve you in love and in truth. Guide us, keep us. In your Son's holy name we do pray. Amen.
Honorees and distinguished guests, thank you for being here today. Today we celebrate the contributions of thousands of women veterans who have served our nation from the Revolutionary War to our most recent conflicts. Today's women here represent the almost 27,000 women veterans in the Commonwealth. This celebration is for each one of them. The women veterans who have paved the way before us, and most importantly, those who have fallen in the name of freedom. In remembrance, we will begin our candlelight tribute. For all the fallen sisters, we have 5 candles to represent the 5 branches of the military. The colors of the candles signify each meaning. One is lit for grief, one for courage, one for memories, one for peace, and one for love. I now invite 5 women from each branch of the military to come forward and the lighting of each candle.
Representing the Marine Corps, the red candle is for the light of love. Day by day, we cherish a special place in our hearts that will always be reserved for them. We thank them for their gifts that their lives have brought to each of us.
Representing the U.S. Navy, the white candle is for world peace. As long as there is a white candle lit, we are reminded of the hope that one day the world could live without war, where no serviceman or woman dies for freedom's sake.
Representing the Army, National Guard, the blue candle represents the memory, the times we laughed, the times we cried, the caring and joy they gave.
The yellow candle represents our courage. to confront our sorrows, to comfort each other, to change our lives. The purple candle represents our grief. The pain of losing them is heart-wrenching. It reminds us the depth of our love and the depth of their bravery.
Thank you. I ask that you please remember those who have made the ultimate sacrifice and remember our sisters in prayer. I would now like to introduce the Secretary of the Massachusetts Department of Veteran Services. Secretary Coleman Nee joined the Department of Veteran Services in 2007 and has worked tirelessly on behalf of veterans in the Commonwealth, has been involved in several initiatives on behalf of women veterans, and was appointed to Secretary on January 24th, 2011. He is a veteran of Operation Desert Storm, where he served in the United States Marine Corps. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Secretary Coleman Nee.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here today. I want to thank all of you, all the women vets that are here today, some of our special guests. I know we have with us, I'll be talking about my boss, Dr. Julian Bigby, Secretary Bigby, but the Attorney General is here as well, Auditor Suzanne Funk, Secretary of Public Safety, Bev Heffernan. You'll be hearing from Senator Mike Rush and Representative Linda Dean Campbell as well later today. I also want to make a note that General Rice is here, the Adjutant General for the National Guard, and I deeply appreciate the fact that General Rice and Secretary Heffernan are here today, especially given all that they could be doing in regards to the wake of Hurricane Sandy and the damage that's caused here in the Commonwealth. And let me just say, if you see the pictures, whether it be Massachusetts or New York or New Jersey or what have you, the National Guard here in this country is a vital component of our fabric, our society. These men and women have done multiple combat deployments over the past 10 years, and yet that's still not enough on devastating effects like Sandy had. They're on the front lines. When we're being told to hunker down as non-emergency personnel, they're the ones that are walking out the door and saving us. So, General, to you and all your troops, National Guard, Air, and Army, thank you so much for all you do for us every day. Single out those veterans that are here today, those women veterans that are here today who served in Vietnam or served during the Vietnam War. This year marks the 50th anniversary of the commemoration of the start of the Vietnam War. 7,484 women served actually in country in Vietnam, many as nurses. Unlike many of their brothers in arms, these were all volunteer positions. They were not drafted. Many worked under dangerous and difficult situations. A number were attacked or engaged in combat. 8 gave the ultimate sacrifice to our country. They returned to a society that many times turned its back on the veterans of that conflict, particularly women veterans. So to those of you who did serve in Vietnam, served during the Vietnam War era, it may be 50 years too late, but it's never too late. Appreciate the work that you've done. Thank you for a job well done, and welcome home. Thank you. Well, today we see far more acceptance of women veterans in our military and society. We still have a lot of work to go to ensure that women veterans receive the recognition and respect for their service, particularly their combat service, as do their male counterparts. We know that still reestablishing family relationships can be difficult for women veterans transitioning back. Women really take the decompression time that we advise them to, or can take the decompression time we advise them to adjust and address their own needs before caring for their families. We know that carrying heavy loads, climate conditions, and lack of adequate personal hygiene contribute to chronic pain and health conditions suffered by women veterans, particularly in Iraq and Afghanistan. These include joint and back trouble and other muscular ailments due in part to having our equipment designed for men. We know that military sexual trauma is higher among women. Women with MST are more likely to experience mental health conditions and accompanying other physical problems. We know that women veterans and those with children are at increasingly risk for homelessness. We know that women veterans still struggle with gender discrimination in the workforce, as well as all women, and as well as balancing home and work lives, and often cannot find work that pays as well as it does in the military. That's why I'm so proud of the work being done by our Women's Veterans Network. And in particular, I'd like to single out two individuals on my staff who make this work every day. Deputy Secretary Cheryl Poppy and Women Veterans Network Coordinator Viviana Cordova. Thank you for your service. It's also why I'm proud to tell you that the veterans of Massachusetts have powerful allies and supporters, people in our corner. It starts right at the top with Governor Patrick, Lieutenant Governor Murray, and our next speaker, the Secretary of Health and Human Services from Massachusetts, Dr. Judy Ann Bigby. Dr. Judy Ann Bigby is a passionate advocate for people in the Commonwealth, particularly those people that require human services and needs. But she is also has a particular fondness for the veterans community, and particularly the women veterans community. She has a big job. She oversees 17 state agencies, serves in the cabinet. She's a highly accomplished physician. She was medical director of community health programs at Brigham and Women's Health Center. She was an associate professor of medicine at Harvard Medical School, director of the school's Center of Excellence in Women's Health. She holds a BA from Wellesley College and an MD from Harvard Medical School herself. And it's my honor at this time to introduce to you my Commanding General, Dr. Judy Ann Bigby.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Secretary Nee, not only for that introduction, but for the work that you do every day on behalf of veterans. Your spirit, your initiative, the innovations that you're introducing continue to make Massachusetts the top state in providing veteran services to people in the country. I also want to welcome and acknowledge the support of Attorney General Coakley, Senator Rush, Representative Campbell, Secretary Heffernan, General Rice, and all of the distinguished guests and friends who are here today. And it's nice to see so many men in the room as well. I am really pleased to be here today. This event that we do, that we've done for 8 years, is my favorite veterans event. And I think it's so important to be able to especially recognize the contributions of women who served in the military and who are veterans. I congratulate all of the veterans and providers here for their efforts and for helping the Patrick Murray administration ensure that, in fact, we are the best state in the nation in terms of providing veteran services. I especially want to recognize the nominees and the recipient of the Deborah Sampson Award. Deborah Sampson took exceptional risk to serve her country in the Revolutionary War. But I think that the challenges she faced, disguising herself as a man, and then hiding her injuries so that no one would discover that she wasn't a man, I am reminded of the daily challenges faced by some of our women around the world today. Deborah was a brave woman. Today we have modern Deborah Sampsons who overcome incredible odds to serve and are now working in specialties never previously conceived in the military. We owe our women who served a strong debt of gratitude for setting the stage for women veterans today and for tomorrow. I'm pleased to report that the Executive Office of Health and Human Services continues the legacy of Deborah Sampson to help our women veterans live healthy and productive lives. We want to ensure that women veterans also know that women veterans have unique strengths as well, and we need to build on these strengths and recognize them as we do all that we can do to support them to live, work, and participate in the fabric of their communities around the Commonwealth. We cannot do this alone. It takes collaboration between the state and federal governments and from the private sector as well. And for all of those who support this goal, I thank you. On behalf of Governor Patrick, I wish the best to all the women veterans who have served. In particular, I wish to recognize the veterans of the Vietnam War. As Secretary Nee said, this year marks the 50th anniversary of the commencement of that war. I thank you all for your service and your sacrifice to our nation and to the Commonwealth, and I encourage you to stay connected to us. We need to learn from you, and we want to support veterans as much as we can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. It's my honor at this time to introduce the Attorney General of the Commonwealth, Martha Coakley. Attorney General Coakley has been a dogged advocate on behalf of our veterans here in the Commonwealth. She has taken a large lead in terms of helping veterans with regards to foreclosures, veteran protection of their rights and benefits when they're deployed, taking a big lead on cracking down on charities that don't necessarily do what they say they're going to do in terms of helping veterans, and has just been a constant presence and a great help for the veterans in the Commonwealth. And it's my honor to introduce the Attorney General.
So good morning, everybody. As I'm realizing it is 50 years since Vietnam, and I remember that. I'm remembering also that it was 1942 when my dad joined the Navy and served in that conflict and then was recalled for Korea. And we grew up with the reality of his service, that he had survived and frankly didn't talk about it too much until after he had retired. But it was always a presence in our home about the need to serve and the importance of service. And I am delighted to be here today. As Secretary Bigby said, this is one of my favorite events around Veterans Days because it is so important to recognize our women who have sacrificed, who have served, who are willing to serve, and to acknowledge that as much as we would like not to be at war, being ready for it is a crucial part of what we have to do. And that means including our men and women, having them prepared. And just as we acknowledge that as women are coming back now from service, and the skills and experience that they gain by working everything that male counterparts have done for years makes them unique employees with everything from technology to the kinds of experience they get in management and discipline, all the things that our private sector employers say they're looking for. And so just as we focus on the skills and experience of our veterans coming back, particularly for women, it is an opportunity to make sure that they can maximize that, to take their place back when they come here in government, in the private sector, in the not-for-profit world. We also need to recognize, however, that many of them come back like male counterparts with wounds that are visible and invisible, that they have needs that need to be addressed, and that as we have tried to focus with our partners in state government and in the private sector to recognize the needs for veterans, make sure they get the help they need. We want to focus on those single moms or the female veteran who is reintegrating into a civilian life and looking for support. I think Massachusetts has a good record on that. We want to make it better, and that's why I am pleased and proud to be here today. In government, it seems to me we have that obligation always to support those who volunteer or are called to serve, not only while they are serving, but once they return here. And we can do that as we look at the outstanding veteran services we have here in Massachusetts. They include our MassachusettsVetsAdvisor.org, unveiled recently with Secretary Nee and others. It's a national model for one-stop shopping for veterans benefits. One of the things that we always want to make sure everyone's aware of what's available. Our terrific Women's Veterans Network, which is also important, as I know, for those who have served, to have that counterpart from people who understand what it's like to have served. And also our AGO's Guide to Veterans Resources. We've updated that in August, and as a complement to what's online, we want to make sure people know what's available for them. We are fortunate to have the strong support of the legislature, including Senate President Murray, Speaker DeLeo, and our two representatives here. Speaker DeLeo is here today. Mike, until recently, you were the rose among the thorns up here, and appreciate what the Speaker and Senate President Murray have done in passing the Valor Act. It's an important recognition of what our veterans have done and what they deserve from government. But our work is not done yet, and as much as today is about recognizing how far we've come, it's also a recognition of what else we need to do so that we stay strong as a state, as a country, and that we provide for our veterans what we should. I also want to offer my congratulations to the award winner today, to Master Sergeant Karen Smith. You know, not only does she do, as her service shows, but she teaches. And I'm particularly impressed that she has taken it upon herself, given her experience and work, to create a program at Endicott College for others to take advantage of what service means and how you can use that when you come back. So thank you, and pleased to be with you.
Thank you so much. And it's my honor at this time to introduce someone who is another passionate advocate on behalf of the veterans of the Commonwealth. He has a long and special relationship. I notice you have past president of the Mass Vet Service Officers Association, Mike Sweeney's here, and our next speaker, Speaker DeLeo, has had a long and cooperative relationship with that group and has really advocated on behalf of a lot of great legislation and legislative action on behalf of veterans and the Gold Star families and veterans families here in the Commonwealth. It's my honor at this time to introduce the Speaker of the House, Robert DeLeo.
Thank you very much for that warm introduction and for inviting me here to speak this morning. It's a pleasure to be here as we honor women who have served our country so bravely throughout our history. I'm so proud to see so many veterans here, along with a number of my colleagues here in the House. I see Representative Madden here has joined us. Welcome, Representative. The legislature, which I'm proud to say, whether it's through the leadership of Senate President Murray in the Senate or what we've done in the House, I think that we have been dedicated to try to help veterans, especially here in our Commonwealth. It's especially gratifying to see the Vice Chair of the Committee on Veterans Affairs, Representative Linda D. Campbell here, obviously Senator Rush, two people who have served not only our Commonwealth, but have served our country as well. And I think that we as a Commonwealth have done much to help our veterans. And I'm proud to say that when it comes to ranking in terms of what services are provided to veterans throughout this country, Massachusetts is rated as #1. And that is a statistic which I want to see continue in years ahead. Also wonderful to see here the great Secretary Nee, who has done such a fabulous job as Secretary. Just an amazing man, and what an advocate to have on behalf of all veterans of the Commonwealth. Secretary Bigby, Auditor Bump, Attorney General Coakley, Secretary Heffernan as well. All strong advocates on behalf of the veterans of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Congratulations to Master Sergeant Smith as well. awardee today for this very well-deserved honor. And it's great to see also Adjutant General Rice here today. Welcome, Mr. Adjutant General. But it's great to be here, most importantly, to show our support and to offer our profound thanks, specifically to our women in uniform, those serving today and those who have served throughout the years, some making the ultimate sacrifice on behalf of our country. Whether it was the WACs and the waves of World War II, or those whom, like our guest speaker, Catherine Splinter, who served in Vietnam, it is important to recognize the unique and important contribution that women have made to our armed forces. As women have weathered the wars of Iraq and Afghanistan, where there are no traditional front lines, they have battled wounds, visible and invisible. And we are grateful. On behalf of the Commonwealth, I would just like to express our thanks to those who have served our nation. We appreciate the bravery they have shown, the sacrifices made by their families and their loved ones, and the positive impact that they've made on our nation and its history. Today, as you all know, many of our brave sons, daughters, fathers, brothers, cousins, husbands, wives, uncles, and yes, even mothers, are deployed across this globe. These women risk their lives every single day to protect the values and safety of the United States of America. So this Veterans Day, we want to send a message to all of our veterans, both women and men. We know that you're out there, and we appreciate what you've done for our country. The legislation that we have passed in support of veterans is just one way that we can say thanks. I hope that everyone will take a moment this week to thank women and all of our nation's veterans. Some gather with us right now, and some in our hearts. Thank you for all of you for being here today and for your continued support of our servicemen and women. May God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much.
So much. It's now my honor to introduce someone who's no stranger to the veterans community. In fact, is not only a veteran himself, but still an actively serving member of the Navy Reserve. It wasn't more than 6 months ago, I think, on Memorial Day, when we stood here at this very spot, and the governor signed one of the most comprehensive pieces of state veterans legislation of anywhere in the entire nation. It was a tremendously impactful bill, beneficial to veterans, Gold Star families, military families across the board. And it was really driven in large part by the efforts of our next speaker. He's not only a serving member of the Navy Reserve, he's also a recently returned veteran from Iraq. He is the Senate Chair of the Committee on Veterans and Federal Affairs, and a great friend to us in the department. It's my honor to introduce to you Senator Mike Rush.
Thank you, Secretary Nee, and thank you, Speaker DeLeo, Secretary Bigby, Secretary Heffernan, General Rice, General Coakley, Auditor Bump, Representative Campbell. And to those of you who don't know, these folks work hard each and every day, and I'm honored and humbled to be in their presence because they've been working hard for a very long time to ensure that the veterans, the women veterans, and all veterans of the Commonwealth are treated with the dignity and the respect that they so deserve, and I'm honored and humbled to be in their presence here today, as well as yours. So I am thrilled. As we approach Veterans Day, we gather to remember and honor our female servicewomen, veterans, and their families. It is fitting that we are gathered here for a special ceremony to recognize the unique experience of our female veterans. Here in Memorial Hall, this hall was built specifically to say thank you to the veterans, all veterans of our Commonwealth. I also want to extend a very special congratulations to Master Sergeant Smith on earning the award today. Truly, it is fitting, and we celebrate your service in your receiving this award today. Recognizing and addressing the unique needs of our Massachusetts female veterans continues to be critical moving forward as women return and have returned from Iraq and continue to return from Afghanistan, finding themselves in need of support and services. I am confident in the great partnership between Secretary Nee, Senate President Murray, who has been a consistent leader on veterans issues and women's issues, and Speaker DeLeo, as well as my colleagues in the legislature and these leaders who I mentioned earlier, that not only will we continue to get the job done, but continue to be vigilant to ensure that women veterans and the issues that they face in our Commonwealth are always at the forefront of what we do. We are gathered here as a community of individuals who care about our female vets, who recognize the immense contributions of our female vets, and who are committed to ensuring that your service to our country never goes unrewarded by a system that fails to meet your needs. We will continue to work together to ensure that Massachusetts is not only #1 in the nation for providing services to our veterans, but that Massachusetts is #1 in the nation for being responsive to the needs of our female veterans. Thank you again for inviting me to be here today. It is an honor and a privilege, and I say to you, happy Veterans Day as we gather near, and to all the women vets and their families, happy Women's Veterans Day, and it is a pleasure to be here. God bless the United States. Thank you.
It's my honor at this time to introduce someone who is also is a proud woman veteran and a dogged advocate for veterans here on Beacon Hill. She represents Haverhill. Is it just Haverhill? McMillan and Haverhill, I'm sorry. And one of our great providers up there, the Veterans Northeast Outreach Center, and has been a fantastic advocate on behalf of legislation to help women veterans, to help all veterans and family members here at the Commonwealth. She's the vice chair on the House side of the Veterans Affairs, Federal Affairs Committee, and it's my honor to introduce to you Representative Linda McKim.
Good morning to all of you, and thank you all so much for being here. General Rice, Master Sergeant Smith, and all of my distinguished guests from government. We have such a great turnout here today, and Mr. Secretary, I want to thank you so much for your continued leadership. Master Sergeant Karen, I want to extend my enthusiastic congratulations to you. Master Sergeant Smith, I apologize. And to your family as well, and to your extended military family that you have with you today. You know, reading your service, about your service, but more so even about your community service, I think it speaks volumes about who you are as a person, and it's a true privilege to honor you here today. I also want to take this opportunity to congratulate the Women's Veterans Network. In my community, I have been passing out your literature nonstop, making it available to our local veteran service officers, and all I can say is wow. It's a great publication, and you know, it's from here, it's onward and upward, as the Air Force would say. And it's growing so fast, and it's such a great organization, and I want to congratulate all of you that are involved with that. It's so important, and it provides such a good vehicle for military families to come together and support each other. Massachusetts is going to continue to lead the nation in providing the absolute best support for our veterans, because all of us, irrespective of our political parties or our branch of government, we are 100% committed to this imperative, because we know that our veterans deserve nothing less. I want to especially thank my speaker, Speaker DeLeo, for being here this morning. His support for our veterans is legendary, going back since his time in government and even before that. Mr. Speaker, thank you for coming here today. I'm very much looking forward to working with all of you and my colleagues in state government in the upcoming session as we continue to recognize the fastest growing veteran population that being women, and with special attention to the issues that are facing women veterans, particularly housing and a shortage of housing. We remain vigilantly aware as we approach Veterans Day of the unprecedented burden that some of our service members and their families continue to bear as a result of revolving deployments. That is always first on our mind. And as much as I love to razz my fellow Marines, and as you well know, there are many in the State House here, I think it's very appropriate to conclude with their motto, and that is Semper Fi. And that symbolizes, I think, the Commonwealth's commitment to our veteran community, always faithful. We will always be faithful to you. We thank you for your service to our country and our Commonwealth, and we thank you today for supporting our veterans. God bless you, God bless our service members, and God bless our country. Thank you for coming.
I also know that we have representatives here today from Senator Brown's office, Senator Kerry's office, who are here to represent. Thank you so much for your coming and representing us. And at this point, I think we'll turn this over to Viviana to introduce our keynote speaker. Thank you.
Before our keynote speaker addresses us, I would like to say a few things about her. Excuse me. Kathleen Splinter joined the Army Student Nurse Program in 1966. She was assigned to Fort Bragg in North Carolina from 67 to 68 and was married that fall. She received orders to deploy to Vietnam, and when Kathleen arrived in Vietnam in October of 68, she was assigned to the 312 Evacuation Hospital in Chile, Vietnam. She served on a medical ward for 6 weeks and was assigned to an ICU for 8 months. Finished her deployment in a Vietnamese ward. Kathleen remembers Sharon Lane, who was killed during a mortar attack on June 8, 1969, and is the only woman on the wall killed from enemy fire. Kathleen also received the Bronze Star for meritorious service and returned home in October of 69. After returning home, she worked in various hospitals, gave birth to a son. She was also the president of Welcome Home Veterans. Please join me in welcoming Kathleen Splinter of the United States Army.
Good morning. Good morning to all our distinguished guests, and I thank you for being here. I want to congratulate Master Sergeant Smith, who will be receiving this year's award. And I also want to thank Viviana for inviting me to give a keynote address. I was absolutely thrilled because I'm Irish and I love to speak. She asked me to share some of my thoughts as being in the service and as a women veteran. And just as an aside, this hall is extra special to me because my ancestors go right back to the Revolutionary War. You might have heard of them, John Adams and John Quincy Adams. And Sam Adams, he was the father of the Revolution. I come from a long line of fighters. And the other side of my mother's family go back to the Mayflower. We've been thrown out of country, so I've never been worried about fitting in. When I entered the Army in '66, I was a junior at St. Luke's Hospital School of Nursing in Bedford. I didn't have the tuition for my final year. I needed $150. I was the second oldest in a large family. My parents didn't have the money, and the job market was slim. So entering the military seemed like a great deal, both for me and for the Army. I got to practice my nursing, and the Army needed my skills. And I would get to see the world and meet men. How could I lose? My route from high school through nursing school was predominantly a women's world. I went to an all-girls Catholic high school, and my nursing school admitted the first man in my class. I thought we were really on top of this. We were modern. Up until joining the Army, I had always been told that I could do anything as long as I worked hard and persevered, that the sky was the limit. I had been surrounded by strong, confident women for a long time, so why wouldn't I believe them? Well, in 1967, women couldn't do everything they wanted, even if they qualified, especially in the military. I didn't realize just how few women were in the Army, because in nursing, I was surrounded by women officers, by fellow nurses. There were some men, but we outnumbered them in a wide margin, both stateside hospital and in Vietnam. Women continue then to be a large part of my daily experiences. In my 2 years of active duty, I only met 2 non-nursing military women, a female orthopedic surgeon and a female medic. Years later, I was stunned to learn that women make up less than 1% of the total military in 1967. There were no female generals. Only nurses could be ordered into combat. There were no females at any of the military academies, and a woman could not have a child and stay in service. After serving in Vietnam, I came home and tried to pick up my life. Coming home was the worst part of the Vietnam experience. It was surreal. I couldn't understand how everything had changed in just 1 year, when the reality was I had changed. There was no language for PTSD back then, and even if there had been, I was a nurse, not a combat soldier. We didn't even consider ourselves military veterans, just nurses that served in the military. My Bronze Star came through after I was discharged. I was so proud that my captain, Barbara Riley, thought that I was a good nurse. That's what that meant to me. And she was the one that should have been awarded a much higher award, because she took this group of young, inexperienced nurses and mentored us and showed us how to be a nurse in very, very difficult circumstances. Excuse me. When I told some of the doctors and nurses that I was working with here at Mass General Hospital that I had received this award, one doctor asked me who I had slept with to get it, because after all, I was a nurse, not a soldier. During my civilian nursing career, when I would try to share a skill or technique that I had learned in the Army, I was criticized and told that those techniques might be good enough for the Army nursing, but not in the real world. It didn't matter that the new skill was better. Somehow Army nursing was looked down on as less than ideal. So I learned to keep quiet and push all my emotions and conflicts down and pretend that everything was okay. When my world fell apart, I moved back to Massachusetts, a single mom with 2 small children to raise on my own, and suddenly found I couldn't even enter a hospital, let alone practice my nursing. I thought I was losing my mind, but felt that the depression and other symptoms were just a result of the divorce. I couldn't have PTSD. I was a nurse, and I served in a safe hospital in Vietnam. That my hospital was mortared 6 times, and that Sharon Lane was killed during one of those mortar attacks. That didn't count as combat, did it? The first time that I contacted a VA hospital in California, I was told that they weren't sure I qualified for any services, as women didn't serve in combat. Again, I was just a nurse who happened to serve in the Army, not a real veteran. It was now the late 1980s, and times were starting to change, and thankfully I found someone to listen to me and point me in the right direction for help. Battling with the VA for proper diagnosis and treatment for PTSD was long and frustrating. But I am a stubborn Irish woman, and I persevered, especially after I learned that I wasn't the only one with these problems. I participated right here with Jessica Wolf in several research projects to devise the criteria to evaluate women who served in areas of combat, because up until that time, we were evaluated by the criteria developed for men, and try as I may, I'm not a man. And while I was unable to return to my beloved nursing, I was able then to look at my military service with pride and remember all of it as worthwhile and good. During the past 20 years, I started to do more reading about women who served. Gosh, we've served in all of our country's conflicts, going back to Deborah in the Revolutionary War. She had to pretend to be a man and dress as a man. We still dressed in army fatigues in Vietnam. I always said if women ran, we'd have a better look than men. No longer are we going to be relegated to historical footnotes. We have served right alongside our male comrades, as honorably and dedicated and proud as anyone. We veterans are an eclectic band of brothers and sisters. Some of the lessons that I learned from serving in the military are that together we can accomplish difficult tasks, that being part of something bigger than yourself elevates everybody's work experience, that we never leave one of our own behind. It was the Vietnam veterans who pushed and pushed and pushed to finally have the POW MIAs recognized, and we've done such wonderful work in bringing so many home. That the defense of the country is a task for all citizens, not just the military, and we must not ask our military to do what we are unwilling to do. And when we send them into harm's way, we must fully equip them. And when they come home, we must be prepared to take care of their needs and support them as they re-enter civilian life. And that each one of us must pay attention to how we handle conflict, because peace is not found at the end of hostilities, just more conflict. Here at home, peace is still elusive. I want to ask you to envision the following two scenarios. When I say the word war, what does it mean to you? What does war sound like? What does it smell like, look like, feel like? What color is war? As a country, we do war very well. We have a language for war. We can describe it in great detail. We even have a Department of War. Our great battles are stories told, and we make movies about them. War fuels our economy, and we are at war with many things: drugs, illegal immigrants, poverty. Are we any closer to solving these conflicts? Now, what do you think of when you hear the word peace? What comes to mind? What does it sound like, smell like, look like? What does it feel like? What is the color of peace? What is the language of peace? How well do we as a country do peace? Why do we not have a Department of Peace? Why is peace not a core part of the curriculums, not only at the military academies, but in our high schools and colleges? Peace is so much more than the end of hostilities. It is a way of life. Today, we are here to honor Master Sergeant Karen Smith, and in a special way for her service. And in so doing, we honor all women who have served our country. And in a little over a week, many of us will participate in Veterans Day ceremonies honoring all veterans. And these are meaningful ceremonies, but if we don't change the way we live our lives and the way we resolve conflicts, then the broader message of peace is lost. Imagine going up to a veteran and thanking him or her for their service, and then asking about and listening to their stories. Imagine finally realizing that war costs too much in human life, as well as too much in the gross national product. Imagine that our government paid for college education and medical coverage for every citizen, and the military had to apply for grants or scholarships or to have bake sales to fund new weapons. Imagine. Because if you cannot imagine or dream or think of something different than what we do today, then we will never change. Gandhi said, "Be the change you want to see in the world. Look into your own heart, change what needs to be changed there. Then look around in your family, your place of work, your place of worship, your place of leisure, and see where change is needed, and act. Be the change." In 1967, women made up about 1% of the total military. Today, we're up to 12%, and that number is growing. We are now filling military occupation slots unheard of 45 years ago when I served. We have come a long way, but we're not finished yet. And as Helen Reddy once sang, "I am a woman, hear me roar."
We are now at the part of the program where we recognize the Deborah Sampson recipient of 2012. I will now ask Colonel Andrea Gail Bennett, Deborah Sampson Award recipient of 2011, to come forward and introduce this year's honoree.
both an honor and a pleasure to introduce to you this year's winner of the Deborah Sampson Award, Master Sergeant Karen Smith. Without further ado, please join me in giving a warm welcome as I proudly introduce to you Master Sergeant Karen Smith, the 2012 Deborah Sampson.
I've never used a microphone before, so bear with me. Thank you, Lieutenant Gail Bennett, so very much for that kind introduction. Good morning, Secretary Bigby, Secretary Lee, distinguished guests, family, friends, and fellow veterans. I am overwhelmed. Honored and humbled to be the recipient of this year's Massachusetts Department of Veteran Services Outstanding Women Veteran of the Year. I am so grateful to be recognized for my years of service with the Army National Guard and for my service to my community and other members, veterans, since my retirement.
So finally, before we bring Viviana up and you get to the child behind me, we do have to recognize all of our services here today. So when I call you a branch of service, man, woman, currently serving or veteran, I'd like you to stand up and I'd like you to be recognized. So for those proud soldiers of the United States Army, please stand up and be recognized. For those proud naval officers and sailors of the United States Navy, can we signify? Captain Majors, Captain Majors is a past recipient of the Deborah Sampson Award as well. Thank you very much for joining us, Captain. Okay, so for those of you in the United States Air Force, can you please signify standing? Proud members of the United States Coast Guard. We will recognize you. The United States Marine Corps. True friend to those of us who are born in uniform. It would be my honor if you please come up and say a few words now.
You know Karen's from Plymouth. Now you do. It's really a great honor for me to be here today to acknowledge all the brave women who have served our nation here and abroad to keep us safe. And I want to thank the Women's Veterans Network for having this special event today and for all their support of our hard-working military women and veterans. It's encouraging to see more and more women being accepted and recognized for their military contributions. Women like Karen Smith, as you all know by now, as I said, she's from Plymouth. And I can tell you we are extremely proud of her. And what I love about her and others like her is that she continues to serve. Just a few months after retiring from the United States Army National Guard last year, with more than 14 years of active duty under her belt, she began working at the Plymouth Career Center, which is now a nationally recognized for exceptional services for veterans. And this year she began working with the Nathan Hale Veterans Outreach Centers in Plymouth and Middleborough as their Veterans Liaison and Outreach Coordinator. And they just received an award on the Career Center in Plymouth for the VetNet program. They're extremely proud of veterans reaching out to veterans, helping them to find jobs. Karen's ongoing dedication to our military and our veterans touches so many lives. I can't think of anyone more deserving of this year's Deborah Sampson Award. So I want to personally congratulate you and thank you for your continued commitment to the Commonwealth and the nation, and this is a citation from the Senate. On the momentous occasion of receiving the Deborah Sampson Award for your tireless commitment and selfless dedication to the military, we are extremely proud of you, and I get to sign it twice. This is for Senator and once the President of the Senate.
Thank you, Master Sergeant Smith. Thank you. It's been a very busy year at the Women Veterans Network with over 500 direct assistance cases each each year, and the network has had the honor of meeting so many different women veterans and providers across the state. We're eagerly developing new ideas on how to better serve women veterans and the Commonwealth through events, presentations, and documentary screenings on women veterans and the issues that they face upon return of their service. This year's 4th Annual Women Veterans Conference, held in Fall River, brought over 280 attendees, panel discussions on top issues that our women veterans are facing every day. Colonel Susan Lewis, our keynote speaker, delivered a very powerful story about her time in Iraq as a combat nurse and her experiences comforting our wounded troops. And once again, we're pleased to have this week, November 1st through the 7th, proclaimed as Women Veterans Week, and the proclamation is in Nurses Hall, if you would like to take a look at that. And thank you all once again for your support of women veterans, and to women veterans everywhere, thank you so much for your continued support to our Commonwealth and after your military service. This concludes the formal portion of our ceremony. Please join us here in Nurses Hall to continue our celebration of women veterans and enjoy some light refreshments. And to all veterans everywhere, thank you so much for your service. Thank you for being here today.